Submit to Rome is probably something you've heard a lot on the internet lately. Here's what Catholics actually mean when they say submit to Rome. You see, as Catholics, we believe that Jesus started the Catholic Church. In Matthew 16:18, he institutes Peter as the chief of the apostles, or the first pope. And then every single pope that comes after Peter is a successor of the keys to the kingdom of heaven that Jesus gave to Peter. In 1 Timothy 3:15, we read that the church that Jesus started is the pillar and foundation of truth. So if you want the truth, if you want Jesus, you have to go through his church. In Matthew 18:17, we are told that if someone does not obey the church, then they should be to us as the heathen are. So if somebody rejects the church that Jesus started, Rome, then they are rejecting Jesus himself. So when we say submit to Rome, we're actually saying submit to Jesus. Now, this does not mean that the Catholic Church is equal to Jesus, but rather it's just the way that Jesus wants us to come to him. This is the way that he made it to be. The church is the body of all believers, and Jesus only has one body, not a million different denominations of his body. So if you want to find Jesus, you need to submit to Rome, or in other words, submit to Christ through Rome. I also kind of just made this video to show off my sword, but now that you know what it means, please...
See, I'm not going to show off my sword, but it moves its metal at 1,200 feet per second, which is going to be a lot better than your little whimsical sword there that you draw out as though you're a 6-year-old boy. But regardless, let's talk about the actual subject of this video, which is your claim that Jesus started the Roman Catholic Church, which is a blatant lie. The Roman Catholic Church started at around 8380 whenever Rome made Christianity the universal religion of Rome, the Catholic religion of Rome, and that is exactly the origin of your church that slowly drifted off into apostasy. Jesus did not start your church. Matthew 16:18, Jesus is not making Peter the pope or the chief apostle, anything like that. That's simply not what happens. That's even why Peter had to be corrected so many different times by Paul. See, in that, whenever Jesus is saying that on this rock I will build my church, he's naming Peter basically the equivalent of stone. He says that you are Petros, and on this Petra I will build my church. The church was built upon Jesus. Jesus is the chief cornerstone that the builders had rejected. It is quite literally a continuous theme that goes throughout the entirety of the Bible, which is all foreshadowing Jesus being the foundation of the church. The same reason why Jesus talking about the Petra that the wise man builds his house on, the rock that he builds his house on, that is a smart man, but the one who builds his house on sand is a foolish man, because when the storm comes, it's going to take all of it away because it has no foundation. Jesus has to be the foundation of everything, not the Roman Catholic Church, not the Roman Empire. Now, I always find it to be humorous to an extent whenever you see Catholic apologists who will try to quote the Bible, but they always do it so blatantly out of context. So whenever he's talking about Matthew 18, it's talking about a church discipline thing, and it's not referencing the Roman Catholic Church by any means. It's not talking about submitting to that church. It's talking about if you're disobeying God's commandments, then the rest of the actual church, which is the immortal bodies of believers in every denomination, everyone who believes that we're saved by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, for the glory of God alone, believes that Jesus is God, believes that Jesus is the eternal Son of God, and that God is triune. Everyone who is actually a biblical Christian throughout all of time, even prior to Jesus, is part of Jesus's church. See, the immortal body of believers goes all the way back. It doesn't just start at Rome. It goes all the way back throughout the Old Testament. All the Old Testament saints are all Christians within the same context, that they trusted Yahweh was going to atone for all of their sins, past, present, and future, not just some. And then you'll have to go to some mythical organization to ask a priest to absolve you of your sins, and he's going to be stepping in the place of God. And now you even have the Catholic Church with an AI Jesus confession booth, and that is absolutely blasphemy, idolatry, and just plain creepy. So no, Jesus did not at any point start the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church is an apostate church. And whenever someone says the millions of denominations, or pulls out the actual number of their little thing of 44,000 different denominations, it just shows the absurdity of that person. Like I've said this before, anyone who uses that statistic is showing themselves to be willfully ignorant, because that whole study was done showing that Roman Catholicism, according to that study, was over 280 separate denominations. Over 200, just Roman Catholicism was classified as over 280 different denominations. It's absolutely an absurd study that did not actually represent what it was looking into at all, but you'll only see Catholics who try to quote it because they don't know what it said, they don't know what they're talking about, which is proven through any time that they're trying to pervert the Bible by taking it out of context, by trying to twist what it says, and by applying their interpretation while then accusing you of interpreting that which is written in the plain text. So do not submit to Rome. If you submit to Rome, you will only find yourself in hell. Instead, you should submit to Jesus and trust fully in him that he was sufficient and that by his one sacrifice he has perfected for all time those who are being sanctified.